Welcome to Life Stories. Today, we bring you the incredible journey of Sophia Johnson, a woman who defied her family's expectations and built a culinary empire from the ground up. Despite facing rejection and disbelief from those she loved the most, Sophia followed her passion, risking everything to pursue her dream of opening Brilliance, a restaurant that would ultimately change her life. This is a story of perseverance, self-belief, and the power of standing tall in the face of adversity. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to begin today's story and never miss an inspiring tale. My name is Sophia Johnson. I'm a 32-year-old chef, and the moment I had been waiting for all my life had finally arrived. Yet, as I stood there, in front of the glass doors of Brilliance, my restaurant, the one I had sacrificed everything to build, I couldn't shake the emptiness in my chest. The bright city lights of Los Angeles reflected off the glistening ocean, shining like jewels, but all I could think about was the fact that the people who mattered most to me weren't there. Brilliance was my dream come true, its name glowing softly under the neon lights, like a promise fulfilled. But despite all the lights, the glimmer, the excitement surrounding the grand opening, there I was, standing alone. It was supposed to be the happiest moment of my life. But there was a silence inside me, a hollowness, a feeling that no matter how much I had achieved, it didn't matter. My family wasn't there to see it. I had spent the last 15 years of my life working in the kitchens of New York, honing my craft in the most intense, high-pressure environments you could imagine. I had been the head chef at one of Manhattan's most prestigious five-star restaurants, a place that was known for its meticulous standards and for pushing the boundaries of modern cuisine. People called me a culinary genius, someone who could transform even the simplest ingredients into something extraordinary. And yet, no matter how many awards I won, no matter how much praise I received from the culinary world, in my family's eyes, I was still just a dreamer. They didn't understand. I wasn't born into a family of artists, creators, or people who valued the beauty in cooking. My father, Daniel Johnson, a former hedge fund executive, valued only money, power, and prestige. To him, being a chef was nothing more than manual labor, an inferior profession compared to the empire of financial success he had built. My mother, Eleanor Johnson, a renowned interior designer, cared only about social status. When I dropped out of business school to pursue a career in the culinary arts, she never hid her disappointment. And then there was my younger brother, Liam, a successful luxury real estate broker. He was the pride of the family, always flaunting his million-dollar deals, the extravagant lifestyle he led, and never hesitating to mock me whenever I spoke of my dreams of opening my own restaurant. The hardest part of it all was the way they looked at me, like I was wasting my potential. I remember, 3 months ago, sitting across from them at a fancy Beverly Hills restaurant. It was supposed to be a celebratory dinner, but instead, it was a bitter reminder of how little they believed in me. Are you really planning to spend your whole life working in a kitchen? Like some hired help? My mother scoffed, swirling her expensive wine in her glass. Restaurants are one of the riskiest investments. My father chimed in, shaking his head. Do you honestly think you can compete with the big names in LA? Liam chuckled, his voice dripping with condescension. You're going to throw away everything for this? A restaurant? Really? I didn't argue. I didn't try to convince them. I simply placed my utensils down, looked at them for a long moment, and thought to myself, just wait and see. I had no doubt that I was ready. Years of working in the toughest kitchens of New York had prepared me for this moment. I had left behind a 6-figure salary, a stable career, and risked everything for my dream, my own restaurant. I chose Los Angeles as my battleground, a city where only the best could survive. But I wasn't afraid. I found an old building in West Hollywood, once an art gallery, and I knew immediately that this would be Brilliance. I poured everything into it, every penny I had, every ounce of energy, every waking hour. I even mortgaged my own home to ensure I could afford it. I hired the best chefs, including Maria, my sous chef, who had worked at a Michelin-starred restaurant. I curated a menu that was an extension of my soul. including my signature truffle risotto, a dish my grandmother once taught me. Cooking had always been more than just a job to me. It was a way to tell my story. It was a way to show love, to create something meaningful. I still remember the summer evenings in my grandmother's small kitchen when I was a little girl. Her hands guiding mine as we kneaded dough together. The smell of fresh bread filling the air. She'd tell me stories of cuisines from around the world, teaching me that cooking wasn't just about food, it was about sharing a piece of yourself. But my grandmother was gone now. And the rest of my family? They never believed in me. They saw my dream as something frivolous. Something that wouldn't bring the kind of success they understood. So, when the night before the grand opening arrived, and I stood alone in the quiet of the restaurant, looking at the perfectly set tables, I couldn't help but feel the sting of their absence. I sent them an invitation, hoping against hope that they might come. That they might, for once, recognize what this meant to me. Tomorrow is the most important day of my life. If possible, I would really love for you to be there. I saw that the message was marked as read, but there was no reply. No response. That night, I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and promised myself that I would step into this new chapter. With or without them, brilliance was mine now. The most important day of my life had arrived. I wasn't going to let their absence define me. Tomorrow, I would stand tall, proud of what I had built. The morning of the grand opening arrived, and I woke up at 5 a.m. not because of an alarm, but because of the rush of adrenaline coursing through my veins. Today was the day I had dreamed about for so long. I stood by the windows of my apartment in Los Angeles, watching as the first rays of sunlight kissed the city skyline. My hands trembled, but it was not from fear, it was from the immense anticipation that filled me to the brim. By the time I arrived at Brilliance, the restaurant was already awake. The kitchen, the heart of my creation, was alive. Maria, my sous chef, was inspecting the fresh seafood delivered that morning from the California coast. James, the sommelier, was carefully organizing the collection of imported French wines. The staff, every last one of them, was moving with purpose. A shared belief in what we were doing. "Good morning, chef." Maria greeted me with a smile, her eyes gleaming with energy. It was the same energy that I felt inside me. I gripped my knife tightly, the weight of it grounding me. I stepped into the kitchen, the place where I was truly at home. The knives on the counter, the delicate fragrances of fresh herbs, and the familiar rhythm of the kitchen filled me with a sense of peace and focus. This was where I belonged. As the evening approached, the excitement outside built up. Guests began to arrive, luxury cars lining the street in front of Brilliance. Flashing cameras capturing every moment, as if the entire city of Los Angeles was watching. The city's elite had gathered. Critics, celebrities, industry giants. Among them was Michelle Parker, a renowned food critic from the Los Angeles Times, and David Kingston, a famous Hollywood director. Oliver Crane, the CEO of a luxury hotel chain, was also among the guests. I stood at the entrance, shaking hands and smiling, greeting everyone with a warmth I could barely feel. I had worked for this moment. Every last ounce of my soul poured into it. But as I stood there, greeting these important figures, I felt an emptiness inside me that I couldn't ignore. It wasn't the glittering guests or the flashing cameras. It was the absence of the people I truly wanted to share this moment with. I checked my phone again. No messages. Not from my mother. Not from Liam. Not from my father. I told myself it was okay. That tonight was about me, not them. I reminded myself that Brilliance was the culmination of my dreams, the manifestation of all I had worked for. Yet, no matter how much I tried to convince myself, it hurt. The evening unfolded, and the restaurant's opening exceeded all expectations. The appetizers, caviar tartlet with lemon cream, left the guests in awe. The main course, my signature truffle risotto, was met with praise and admiration. The critics were impressed, and Michelle Parker was taking notes in her leather-bound journal. It was a masterpiece. She later called it, a dish that was flawless in its blend of tradition and modernity. The dessert, dark chocolate soufflé with Grand Marnier, was a showstopper, enchanting every palate that tasted it. But despite all the praise, despite the standing ovations from the guests, I felt the weight of an undeniable emptiness. I glanced at my phone once more. Still, no messages, no calls, not a single word from the people I had once hoped would be there, sharing in my success. As the night wore on, I quietly slipped away from the main hall and into the kitchen. I needed a moment to breathe, a moment to be alone with my thoughts. I picked up my phone and dialed Liam. After 3 rings, he answered, his voice impatient. "What do you want?" he asked. "You're not coming?" I tried to keep my voice steady. He chuckled. "You really thought I'd skip a VIP client event just to see your little restaurant?" I closed my eyes, swallowing the lump in my throat. "Liam, this isn't just a restaurant. This is my dream," he scoffed. "Your dream doesn't make me money. Look, enjoy your night, but don't expect us to care." With that, he hung up. I stood there for a moment, the phone still pressed against my ear, the silence ringing in my ears. My throat was dry. I couldn't believe it. Not a single word of congratulations. No support. It felt like a blow to my chest. I called my mother next. She picked up after 2 rings. "Sienna, what is it?" she asked, her voice distracted by the background noise of what sounded like a lavish party. "Mom, today is my restaurant's grand opening," I said, my voice trembling despite myself. "Oh, right, I forgot," she said casually. "But anyway, I'm at a fashion event. You know how packed my schedule is." I tightened my grip on the phone. I was trying to keep my voice calm, but it was becoming harder by the second. A simple congratulations would have been enough. She sighed, her voice dripping with indifference. "Sienna, don't be so sensitive. Real success isn't a small restaurant. If you want to do something meaningful, think about investment and finance. Don't make a fuss over something so trivial." A single tear slid down my cheek. This wasn't trivial to me. This was my life. But before I could respond, she hung up. I stood there in the quiet of the kitchen, trying to steady my breathing, wiping away the tear. The night continued on, but something inside me shifted. It wasn't about them anymore. It wasn't about proving anything to my family. I had brilliance. I had my team. I had my customers who believed in me. And for the first time in my life, I realized that was enough. I adjusted my apron, took a deep breath, and walked back into the main hall, ready to embrace the next chapter of my journey. This was just the beginning. The next morning, after the grand opening of Brilliance, I woke up early, as I always did. The scent of truffle, wine, and chocolate still lingered in the air, hanging in the restaurant like a soft memory of the night before. The first rays of sunlight streamed through the glass windows, casting golden shadows across the sleek design of the restaurant. I walked past the front desk and overheard Jessica, my receptionist, speaking to a caller. "I'm very sorry, but we're fully booked until next month," she said, her voice calm but tinged with surprise. I froze, my heart skipping a beat. No way, could it really be true? But there it was. The reservation list for Brilliance had been completely filled within just one night. It wasn't just a success, it was a phenomenon. A sign that my sacrifice, my long years of struggle, had finally paid off. Brilliance was alive. It was real. I could hardly believe it. Just 2 days after the opening, I held a copy of the Los Angeles Times in my hands. The headline on the front page of the food section read, "Brilliance, a shining gem in Los Angeles where cuisine becomes art." The review was extensive and glowing. Written by Michelle Parker, one of the most powerful food critics in LA. She described my signature truffle risotto as a flawless blend of tradition and modernity, imbued with the bold signature of a fearless chef. She wrote, "This is not just a meal, it's an experience." I put the newspaper down, feeling a swell of pride in my chest. My dream had been validated, not just by the critics, but by the public as well. Yet, even as I read the glowing words of praise, there was a twinge of bitterness. Did they see it? Did they finally understand what I had achieved? Did my family finally see me, not as the little girl who was chasing a pipe dream, but as the chef who had created something extraordinary? I scrolled through my phone again, feeling the familiar ache in my chest. No messages, no calls. I had spent my entire life trying to prove my worth to them. But they were still absent. It didn't matter how many accolades I received, how many glowing reviews poured in. They didn't care. The days that followed were a whirlwind of recognition and success. Forbes named me the rising star of American cuisine. Vogue featured a photo shoot of brilliance, dubbing it the place everyone wanted a table at. The Hollywood Reporter listed the restaurant among the top 10 must-visit restaurants of the year. The waiting list stretched to 6 months. And then, the celebrities started arriving. Emma Thompson, the Oscar-winning actress, praised my lobster with saffron butter sauce. David Kingston, the renowned director, declared, "If any place deserves 3 Michelin stars, it's Brilliance." Even Gordon Ramsay posted on Instagram, "It's been a long time since a meal has truly left me speechless. Brilliance is the future of modern cuisine." The post garnered over 1 million likes overnight. 2 months after opening, I received the news that every chef dreams of. A Michelin inspector had visited Brilliance. For any chef, this was the moment of a lifetime. A single Michelin star was a dream. 2 stars were extraordinary, but 3 stars? 3 stars were the pinnacle of glory. The night of the inspection was tense. We all knew it was a make-or-break moment. I personally prepared the signature truffle risotto. As I placed the dish before the inspector, I watched him closely through the small gap in the kitchen door. He took a bite, placed his spoon down, and sat in silence. I held my breath, my heart racing, and then, after what felt like an eternity, he nodded. It was subtle, but it was enough. 4 months later, Brilliance was awarded 3 Michelin stars, a record no restaurant in Los Angeles had ever achieved in such a short time. News of our success spread worldwide. The New York Times, BBC, CNN, and Time magazine all hailed Brilliance as a global culinary phenomenon. The waiting list grew to 2 years. The restaurant's revenue surpassed $10 million annually, and I became the most sought-after name in the culinary world. Despite all the applause, despite all the success, a part of me still felt a void. The achievements were staggering, the accolades were endless, but none of it filled the emptiness inside. I had created a legacy. But at what cost? My family still hadn't reached out. Not once. No congratulations. No acknowledgement. They still hadn't seen me for who I was. They hadn't seen the chef who stood before them with the world watching. But at that moment, I understood something profound. I had done this for me. I didn't need their approval. I had found my own family in Brilliance, my team, my customers, and the people who believed in me from the very beginning. As I stood in the kitchen, watching my team work with grace and precision, I realized that this success, this journey, had been mine all along. It was never about them. It was about me, my passion, and my belief in myself. And the world had finally taken notice. As the years passed, Brilliance continued to thrive, becoming not only the top restaurant in Los Angeles but a symbol of what one can achieve when they follow their own path. Regardless of the odds, every day in the kitchen was a reminder of how far I had come. From the small kitchen in my grandmother's house to standing in the heart of a 3 Michelin-starred restaurant, I had carved a path that was uniquely mine. No longer did I seek the approval of those who had doubted me. My true family had always been the ones who believed in me, the team that stood beside me, the customers who praised our work, and the love of the craft itself. One spring afternoon, as I stood in the kitchen supervising the plating of a new dish, a new letter arrived. It was an invitation to the James Beard Foundation Awards, where I had been nominated for Chef of the Year. I smiled to myself, a deep sense of peace settling over me. I no longer had to prove anything to anyone. I had already achieved more than I had ever dreamed of, not because I had beaten my family's doubts, but because I had believed in myself from the very start. As I prepared for my first lecture at Harvard Business School, where I would teach culinary management to a new generation of chefs, a student asked me a question that struck me deeply. if you could go back in time, would you want your family to support you from the start? I paused, then smiled. No, I said. If they had supported me, maybe I wouldn't have become this strong. Maybe I wouldn't have created brilliance. Sometimes, losing the support of those you love can be the greatest motivation to stand on your own. As I finished my lecture and returned to the kitchen, I felt complete. Brilliance wasn't just a restaurant, it was a testament to believing in oneself, no matter what others think. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to never miss another incredible life story.